How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be installing my Blox brake booster delete and my brake tuck kit from Finishing Lines. So let's roll that intro and get into it. Alright guys, so I got the H22 unwrapped and I'm in the middle of making a video on oil supply and oil return for the turbo, but I ended up running out of parts. So I gotta do something in the meantime. Can't do much more in terms of oil supply, so I'm gonna move on to something else. I got my brake booster delete here, and once I have this all fitted in the engine bay, then I can start to test fit my brake tuck kit. So basically all these lines are going to replace all the hard lines in the car, which I've ripped out already. So I won't be able to do much with this until I get this stuff installed. So I guess I'll do that. Alright guys, I got a little carried away and started installing a line already. So basically I got a 90-degree elbow coming off of the reservoir here, and it will go to this line here. This comes in the kit and it is labeled and tells you exactly where to go. So master cylinder to the firewall. I guess the next step is drilling a hole in my freshly painted firewall. So no pressure. I have a feeling I'll be drilling a lot of holes during this install, so might as well bring them all out. So I'm going to start small and kind of work my way up. I do not want to chip the paint if at all possible. I need to drill a hole big enough that this bulkhead fitting will fit through the firewall. So this will be the only part that's exposed, and then this will be under the dash. So I'm going to start by covering the area I'm going to drill with some masking tape. Hopefully that'll minimize the risk of chipping the paint. And then I'm going to start with a very small drill bit and then just kind of work my way up to this size. Now, in eyeballing the drill bit size with the diameter of this, I think a 3/8 is probably the closest I got. Now, there's no real instructions on how to do this or where to put your holes, but in looking at the pictures on the Finishing Lines site, they have the bulkhead fitting coming through right here. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I have no idea where it's gonna come through under the dash, so I'm just gonna hope for the best and make a hole here. Alright guys, this portion of the tuck is done. It turned out very clean and it was pretty straightforward. So I ended up drilling the hole. It was a 3/8 drill bit that I finished with. It was still a little bit small, so I reamed it out a little bit with the Dremel, and it fit in there nice and snug. So got it nice and tight now. I ended up putting a copper washer in here just to help seal it. I don't know if it was necessary or not, but it'll also protect the paint a bit, because if I would have been tightening this nut up against the paint, it would have scratched the crap out of it. So copper washer there, did a copper washer on the inside to kind of sandwich it together. So there shouldn't be any moisture getting through there, hopefully anyway. And now this is what we look like under the dash. Don't mind the mess. I just kind of hacked away the underlay, so it's kind of messy looking right now. This will all get redone eventually, but for the time being, we have the fitting coming out through the firewall there, and then it comes down to this T here. I think I'm going to work on the wheel wells first, and then we'll figure out where we're going to mount the proportioning valve and then go from there. So I like how all these lines are labeled, so this tells you exactly what they're for. Wheel well bulkheads to the front brake hoses. So if we come into the wheel well here, we got our factory brake line here, or I'm running stainless braided lines, but this is where the factory brake line would be, and then we are going to run our brake tuck line from here to here. So we're gonna have to drill a hole through here, we're gonna have another bulkhead fitting, and then from there we will have to run it to the T. So I guess I'm gonna get drilling some more holes, we'll get some more bulkheads installed, and then get this line ran across. Alright, so I got my hole drilled on this side, and what I didn't realize is that the hole actually comes through this buildup here, so I actually had to go through 2 layers of metal. Now I don't know how I'm going to get a bulkhead fitting on there. From some of the research I've done, some guys will cut a square into this box, and then that will allow access to it, so I guess that's what I'm going to do. Well, it was supposed to be a square, but this is what it ended up looking like. Not too bad, it should get the job done. So now we should be able to install the bulkhead fitting, and what I'm going to do is put some black RTV on here as well, just so that no moisture can get in here, especially being in a wheel well. I really want to make sure that it's sealed. Alright, so I put a bit of RTV on here. I'm going to install this in the wheel well now, and then see if I can figure out a way to get it tight when there's only one of me. Now ideally I would have a second person over here to hold a wrench on this side while I thread it from the inside, but I don't have that luxury today. So this is what I came up with. I'm just going to run some tape over it. That should hold it in place enough that I can thread the nut on. And then once I get it tight enough, I should be able to hang a wrench off of this side and then tighten it up the rest of the way on the inside. So we'll give that a try. Alright, so this bulkhead is nice and tight. I smoothed out all the RTV with my finger, so it's looking pretty clean. Now it's time to install the brake line. So this is the one we're going to use. It's basically going to go from the factory brake line location to the bulkhead fitting, so it should be a pretty simple install. Alright, got it all snugged up with a wrench, so this is what we're left with. Looks super clean. Now I guess I'll do the same thing on the passenger side. Alright, same process on the passenger side, looks really good. Now this one was actually much easier because I didn't have that build up to go through. It's very simple to drill it and then put the bulkhead through, tighten it up. Done. So now we're ready to run some lines under the dash, I think. So I've now got these 2 lines which will go from the T under the dash to the wheel wells. So I got 2 different styles, 2 different lengths. So these should just be a matter of hooking up to the bulkhead fittings to the T. So I'm going to do that next. Well guys, I ran into a few problems, but I think I figured out a way to make it work. So here's where we're at. I got the driver's side line installed and attached to the T up here. Problem I was facing, because I was trying to route the line up and around so it would be out of the way and hidden, but every way that I routed it, this fitting here would hit the clutch pedal. So when the clutch pedal would go down, then it would come into contact with it. The only way I could avoid it would be to run the fitting in that direction, but then I would have to loop it way around, and I don't have nearly enough length to do that. So I think this will work with the angle I have it at. It's currently out of the way of the clutch pedal. So this side's not quite as clean as I wanted it to be, but it will still work. I'm thinking maybe if I had drilled my hole in the wheel well a bit closer to the inside, then maybe I would have cleared the clutch, but I don't know for sure. But I'm just going to run it like this. If we look in the wheel well, I do have quite a bit of space where I could have moved my hole over a bit, but then I don't really have a flat surface here to tighten it down on, so that's kind of why I decided to drill my hole here, was because it was a nice flat surface. This has a bit of a bend to it, so it would have been a bit angled, so I don't know, that's probably something I could have done differently, but it'll still work. Now for the passenger side. So this is a real problem. This is the line that they supplied. And as you can see, it is nowhere near long enough. It needs to get from here all the way to here yet. So that's not going to work. But luckily the brake booster delete kit that I got from Blox came with some brake lines. This one's a little overkill. It's quite a bit too long, but it will work. So it reached here just fine. And I think if I kind of just route it in a way that I can use up all the length, it will turn out nice and clean. Now it's the wrong color, but it'll still work. I'm hoping I can route it in such a way that it's all going to get hidden anyway. So at least we can still make this work, but this line I'm going to have to ditch because there's no way that I can make that one work. So with that being said, I don't know if it's me that's doing something wrong or maybe I just got the wrong length of line in the kit, but chances are I just put something in the wrong spot. But this was the only way that I could get it to work. Any other way that I would hook up that shorter line, it would be even shorter. So in most installs that I've seen on YouTube and stuff that I've seen online, most of the dash and interior is taken apart. So maybe there is a way to route it in such a way that goes under the dash, but I don't have access to that because my interior for the most part is still together. So this is about the only way I can get it to work for now. Maybe I'll figure something else out in the future when I redo the interior, but for now we're gonna run it like this. Next step is the prop valve and the rear brakes. So we're gonna move on. Hopefully that goes a bit smoother. So as you can see, I've removed the factory SRS module off of this bracket here. That's where the prop valve is supposed to get mounted to. So basically I'm just gonna have to run a line from the T here now to here, which is where the prop valve is gonna go. So the line that they supply for that is pretty short, but I think it will work. There's not a whole lot of distance to cover there. So I think I am going to try and mock this up first. We'll see where we can mount it on that bracket, and then we'll go from there. Well, that escalated quickly. I got started mocking up the prop valve here, and nothing was really lining up. There's not a whole lot of room down here to mount it because I am keeping the factory heater core. Everything I looked at online was showing an interior that's completely stripped, so there's no heater core, there's nothing in the way. So every way I tried to mount this would not work. So this is kind of what I came up with. On the SRS module bracket, there is this metal piece that was sticking off of it. So I ended up having to remove that in order to mount the prop valve like this. So this should work. I do still have clearance on top, so I can adjust it. So I just have everything loosely fitted right now, just so I can get everything mocked up, make sure it works. Then I'll tighten everything up when I'm done. But I have this line coming from the T now, and it goes to the in port on the prop valve. Now we have the out port here, which is going to go to the rear brakes. So now I need to run a line from here. It's gonna run along the tunnel here, and then it should come out where the e-brake cables come out. So I'm gonna get started on that. This is the line that they supply, and it has a T on the other side, and then each side of this goes to the rear brakes. So I got my line run now. It comes all along here, and it's gonna end up right here in front of where the e-brake cables come in. So I would like to reuse these factory grommets, and somehow I have to fit this end of the line through that grommet. So I think what I'm going to do is jack up the car, get it on jack stands, have a look at it from underneath, see if that's even possible. Alright, so now that we're up under the car, I can see that the e-brake cables get run behind the exhaust heat shield, so I'm going to have to remove that first. Hopefully this comes off smoothly. Looks pretty crusty, but let's hope for the best. Alright, so heat shield is now off. That wasn't too bad. And from what I can tell, all I should really need to do is cut 2 slits into these grommets here, and then that should allow the brake line to slip through. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back inside the car and then cut some slits in these grommets from the top. So yeah, I think all I got to do is bend this brake line up and out of the way. I'll cut my slit in here, and then I should be able to run the brake line through it. So I'm going to try that and see how it works. Alright, that worked out really well. So I was able to push the brake lines through the slits in the grommets and I got them hooked up to the T, which goes to this fitting to the prop valve. So we're good to go here. Now I went ahead and removed the wheel back here so that we can have a look at how we're going to make this work. So this is where the factory brake line goes. So basically I'm just going to run the line now from under the car to this, and then we'll have to figure out a way to route the line afterwards. I'm thinking what I'm probably going to do is just zip tie it to the e-brake cables on the underside of the car, but I guess we'll find out once we get everything hooked up how much length we have to work with. So I'm going to get those hooked up real quick on each side, and then we'll figure out the routing later. Alright guys, so I was up pretty late last night and got all the lines routed. Now it's basically just going to be a matter of tightening up all the lines and securing them all properly. So I did get started back here. I got the rear brake lines tight, and I also zip tied them all the way along under here and securing them to the e-brake cable. So we're secured all the way up to the interior of the car. So that's kind of where I'm going to start today. I'm just going to start here and work my way to the front, make sure everything is tight, and then I may need to get myself some P-clamps yet, which I don't currently have, so I'm going to have to run to the store during the week and pick up some of those, but I'll try to do as much as I can with the zip ties for now, but I would like to use some proper clamps just to secure it the rest of the way. Now normally, once I have everything tight, I'd be able to fill the system up with brake fluid, bleed the brakes, and make sure everything's working properly, but I'm actually waiting on some parts to come in. The kit I'm waiting on is basically going to utilize this reservoir for the clutch master, so then I won't have to have a separate reservoir for the clutch. So I'm waiting on that, so I don't want to fill the system up with fluid yet until that is finished. So I won't be able to 100% finish the brakes today, but at least I'll be able to get everything secured, get the interior back together, and start to get this looking like a car again, because this is about as messy as a gas station bathroom, I tell you what. Alright, so I'm about 2 minutes into this, and I now realize that my center console will not fit. So this is the style that does not have the armrest on it, so it doesn't go as far back as the other style. So I'm going to try to make a trip out to the shed and see if I have the other style kicking around in there. Only problem is, oh, there's a wheel in the way. Only problem is, I gotta walk through snow that's about 6 feet deep, so wish me luck. Whoa! Made it. Oh, okay, what do we got? Oh, it's right there. Easy. Well, let's see if this one fits better than the other one. Looks like the CRX is doing okay back there. Oh! Yep, that's what I was afraid of. Alright, now I'm looking at both of these side by side. They're actually pretty close to being the same length, so I guess I was wrong. I'm going to test fit the one with the armrest, see how it fits, see if that boot full of snow was worth it. Alright, so this one does cover a little bit more than the other one did, but I'm still not quite sitting flat here. So I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and trim a little bit from here. I tried pulling on the lines a little bit to move them a bit further forward. They did move a little bit, but either way I'm still going to end up having to trim. So I will end up trimming this a bit, but I kind of want to keep the factory look if possible. So I think I'm just going to use this factory cutout here. I may widen it probably about till where these lines are here, and then I might make it a bit taller yet. But I don't want to cut too far, otherwise this cover isn't going to work on here anymore. So I'm just going to bust out the Dremel, we'll get some cutting done. Hopefully I don't mess it up too bad. Alright, that worked out very well. Cut doesn't look too bad, almost looks factory, and we got plenty of room for the brake lines now. Center console sitting flat, so I'm going to call that done. I think I'm going to start securing the brake lines all the way up to the front. Just going to basically use zip ties for now until I can get some clamps.
The next day.
Alright guys, brake tuck is officially done. Just waiting on a few more parts to come in, and then I can run fluid through it, bleed the brakes, and get the brakes done 100%. But as far as the tuck goes, it is done. I managed to get a majority of the interior put back together. I don't want to do all of it yet because I do still have a bunch of wiring to do. So I'm still waiting on some parts for the engine so I can finish running the oil lines. So in the meantime, I think I'm going to start wiring. So that'll probably be the next thing I work on, is getting my rye wire harness installed. But I know now that I've plugged up most of the holes in the engine bay, so I'm still going to have to run wires into it somehow. So that'll be a bit of a fun process, trying to figure out how I'm going to get the wires into the engine bay but not have them seen. So we might be cutting some holes again. So with that being said, I'm actually kind of relieved that I will be redoing the paint in the engine bay, because now with me having to cut holes and installing an engine obviously is probably going to cause some damages. So I'd rather get that out of the way now, get everything working and perfected, and then we won't have to cut any more holes because we already know everything works. So it'll look good enough in the meantime. I've read the comments. I know a lot of people are saying, take your time, do the job right, get the engine bay perfect. But if I do that and I get it perfect and I end up scratching, which I know I will scratch something when putting the engine in, I'm gonna be that much more upset. So as it is right now, I think I'm better off this way. But yeah guys, we're making huge progress. I just made a huge order on chase bays, so those parts should be in this week. So we're gonna be getting a lot of stuff done really fast. So I'm pretty stoked about it. I thought spring was coming, but Manitoba decided to throw another snowstorm our way. So I've been busy clearing snow and pulling people out of ditches with the 4Runner, and yeah, just been busy with that. But now it looks like the weather's clearing up. Hopefully it's gonna stay above freezing now, melt everything, and at that point we'll be able to get the car out. So it's sounding like spring is coming pretty fast. So I'm trying to go hard on this thing, get the car ready, and get it driving as soon as possible. So I'm pretty stoked about it. Hope you guys are too. If you like the video, I know this was kind of a long one, but give me a thumbs up if you stuck around this long. Make sure you drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys think about the tuck. I am pretty happy with it. Obviously there were a few hiccups along the way and there was a lot of problem solving involved, but overall I am pretty happy with the results. And if you haven't subscribed already, definitely consider doing so. Like I said, we got a ton of content coming on this car. Racing season is coming, we're going to be doing a lot of that, and we might see some new cars on the channel very shortly. So if that kind of stuff interests you, definitely consider subscribing. We'll see you guys on the next one.